Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Maybe it's evening someplace also. Well, it probably is where you are, Karoliina. So wherever you are in the world, welcome into another episode of the Buddhist Biohacker. We are in episode 231, and we are joined with my sweet soul sister that I love so much, is Karoliina Hellen. Welcome back in.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm so pleased to be here. And I just have to say, like, when I watched the intro and there was all these DNA strings spiraling, I could kind of go, ooh, because that's kind of somewhere where I have been a lot the past week or so. There has been so many shifts happening, and yeah, it's almost like hard sometimes to navigate this bodily reality, this 3D reality, because there is like constantly some kind of downloads dropping in, and it always is a little bit different kind of to step into the world.
I so agree. This last week, this eclipse season, like, what do you want to say about eclipse season? And welcome in. I see a lot of you guys joining. Please share where you're from. And I love knowing who's on, because we know most of you in the community. And tomorrow's the solar eclipse. And is it the full moon or the new moon? I guess I don't even know. Yeah, full moon?
New moon.
New moon. Yeah. So, and solar.
My season. Dark moon. Gets me
Dark
going.
moon. Yes. Oh God, I need a dark moon, I think. So anyways, what do you want to say about eclipse season? Because it's unearthed a lot, I feel like.
What do I want to say about the eclipse season? I see kind of that this eclipse season is really like doing a lot of unmasking, which is kind of comical if we think about that. People are actually masking up a lot.
Yeah.
So there's like really, I see a lot of this like peeling of the old illusions and the old masks of behaviors and stories and all these different kind of false realities and lies that we have been kind of being consciously or unconsciously keeping stuck in, like choosing to be in patterns and relationships and situations where we have known that this is not functional, this is not something that serves me or anyone. Still we keep on being in those situations and that reality, because there is so much fear of choosing differently, because it's the unknown. But at the moment it feels more like we don't even get to choose to unmask and to kind of peel off these false identities and kind of these false lies that we have been living in for so long as humanity. So there's a lot of illusions coming down. What I saw in meditation yesterday actually was like, I had a beautiful meeting with Hathor, and she was like showing herself in a totally new way for me. Usually she shows up as the winged one, but this time she was this huge nurturer of the humanity. With she had like 4 teeth and 6 arms, and she was like just holding all these infants and breastfeeding them at the same time. So when she just like with some of the arms she was like holding the infants, and some of the she was like planting these pearls into the cracks of the distortion, like when things the distortions come down and crack open, there was these cracks in the earth, and she was like planting these like really radiant pearls into the cracks, and at the same time she was holding all these infants. So it was a really beautiful and special meeting, and she showed herself in a total different way than I'm used to see her, which was cool. She still had the cow head, but she was kind of the luscious mother body with the 4 teeth was kind of a surprise.
Oh, wow. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. You know, that's interesting too. That's interesting because so I've been doing sacred cacao ceremony at home. I'm very much into this. And it's probably been a lifelong journey with chocolate for me, but I just was doing one over the weekend, and I had this image of like that same kind of mother energy, like this holding of like the planet, you know, this like almost like I felt like the planet herself was like wanting us to be in her bosom, kind of. So that's interesting because that's like the same kind of energy as what you're talking about, is this like this holding.
Yeah.
And we're in this time, right, where they're like you're saying, it's a forced, I like what you said, forced unmasking. That's really profound, because that is a great description of what's happening right now. And so there's a need to be held and nurtured, I feel. And that's interesting because last night we were talking with Jessica Ann about the importance of touch. And, you know, so that I want to segue into the work that you're doing, because I know that you've been doing all sorts of training and learning and experiencing with yourself, and you're bringing it out into the world. And when we talk about touch and nurturing, and it brings up all of the energy of Tantra. So I'd love for you to share what have you been doing?
Yeah. I get heat up.
Yes, let's do it.
So this is actually something that it's so interesting when we get invited into taking different kind of actions, and there is like opportunities opening up here and there, and you just keep on navigating where you feel yourself being pulled, if you just allow yourself to be kind of riding the currency of the energy. And this is something that I have actually been tackling with myself for so long. I have been really masculine in my way of driving life, which actually I see also being one of the reasons that actually got my body sick at the first time when I got cancer. So that took me more into actually experiencing with the pleasure body, as I saw a healer, or actually a healer came to me when I was visiting my little brother. And the thing that was actually why he came there was because he was delivering me ashes of a perch, which is like a traditional Finnish folk medicine, alkalizing the body with ashes of a birch. So it's just a pure birch ash that you blend in water and drink it, and it alkalizes the system, and it's also killing cancer. The other thing was, like, before he left, he dropped in this droplet that actually made me so angry. And what he said was like, you know, I feel like you should masturbate every day. Like, you need to come every day. And I was like, who are you, like, coming in and saying what I need to do with my body?
Yeah.
And I had kind of this, I have always been quite like sexual being, but what I realized was actually that it was not really integrated sexuality, but it was actually quite distorted. It was more of getting validation and getting things, like manipulative energy, more or less. But that was something that opened up something in me that actually I needed to look into. So this has been kind of a long road where I have been tapping into different containers every now and then, where this constantly just pops up as self-love practices or embodiment practices to the feminine receptive way of tapping into the body, rather than doing embodiment practices from a really directive and strict way of doing a system. Like, for example, for me, Ashtanga yoga was very long a love relationship. And as beautiful as yoga is, it can be quite masculine when it goes into the alignment-based yoga and really harsh, like this is the only way to do asana.
Yeah.
So I was kind of dropping myself into the illusion of that this was something that was more soft and more feminine way of practicing, but I still was strictly on the masculine side of practicing. And it came into the point where my body actually just didn't allow me to do yoga anymore. It can't handle yoga anymore in that sense. I can do restorative yoga, yoga nidra, and even short periods of yin yoga. But as fast as there is a slightest input of the masculine in my yin yoga practice, I get a response in my pain body. So I have it kind of laying on a shelf at the moment. And I'm focusing straight forward in the feminine embodiment practices. That was more of like where I guided myself in. I have always loved dancing and like sensual expression through dancing. And first I glided into a container with Shani Marie in a container that was called Enchantress. And that was kind of like, whoa, like mind open. Or not at least that much mind, but like my whole expressive body was like just, I was like without words, which reminds me that I actually need to also give her my testimonial, because it was kind of the grand opening of all. The other thing that it led to was actually joining one of Wild Grace movement's containers that was the feminine frequency formula, which I did last summer. And ever since that was kind of like the holy shit, this is what my body and my nervous system needs. Like this is like my next level yoga. So in that container, the feminine embodiment and the channeling of energy through the physical body was just part of it, of course. But that is something that I really have a huge burning for to do and to deliver to others, because I have seen in my one-on-one clients what difference it makes in their everyday life, when they actually put on practice in their daily life, where they get to just feel the body and just allow themselves to channel out whatever is there to be expressed. And especially in the time where we are at the moment, like when the whole world is kind of went to south.
Yeah.
It's really chaotic. So what that does for the human is that we get really stressed out, even though we choose a narrative where we stay quite neutral. We still have all these inputs from the outside world and from the people around us and our own fears that everyone has. Either way, we admit it or go into denial. So there's all these question marks, all this stress that lingers around. And what that does for our nervous system is that we actually get so overly fed with all these triggers that it makes our nervous system to collapse. And what that means is also that we actually also collapse our immune system. And what that means is also that we more likely get all these beautiful pieces of information in form of bacteria and viruses from the environments where we move. So this is where the feminine embodiment comes so beautifully in, because it's basically more or less nervous system regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you have been also experiencing some of that, right?
Oh, for sure. Well, and I want to go back to when the very beginning, when you were talking about the orgasm piece. I want to touch on that because Dave Asprey, who of course founder of Bulletproof, and one day I'm going to get him on my show. But he actually just posted a podcast about this very thing and how important it is for women to have an orgasm every single day. Like, our hormone regulation wants that. Like, that is actually how to keep our hormones and our endocrine system and our nervous system healthy. Whereas a man is the opposite. A man actually wants to hold back. The more that they hold back, the more that they carry healthy levels of serotonin and dopamine, where for us, we need to release so that we can produce that, which I think is really interesting. And so I wanted to touch on that. And then, yes, like, I could talk for hours about my nervous system. And I think what I'm learning about, I think I'll speak to the embodiment piece. What I'm learning is, in my own body, I had discomfort touching my body. That's true, real true for me. I was like, oh, like, I didn't even want to do my own self breast checks, like, I didn't even want to do that. Like, I was not comfortable. And so it was an opening to some really beautiful inner work that I did over the last decade to understand my body and to be sexual and to have permission to be sexual. And it's so integrated with the goddess, and it's so integrated with the dark goddesses. I mean, I think you and I are similar in that Pele and Hecate and, all of these beautiful Kali and Durga, like all these beautiful goddesses, the darkness, like that's a place I live. I love that place. But I recognized how much I wasn't allowing my body to be in that place and to experience the womb energy, to experience sexuality. It was quite a journey for me. And so I don't even know where I'm going with that, but the idea of the embodiment practices, I think what's drawing me to them is it's spiraling even deeper into this work that I was doing. But as I'm kind of scratching the surface of it right now, I'm thinking, wow, like, there's still work for me to do. and it's work collectively. If we take it to the narrative, I mean, I hate to go to the narrative, but if we take it, the Ghislaine Maxwell trial is going on right now. And it's all about trafficking and abuse of young girls. And so I feel like when you talk about forced unmasking, there is a collective healing of sexual trauma right now. So isn't embodiment practice at the forefront of that right now? Isn't that one of the most important things? And I love all these comments, you guys. Thank you. Good morning, by the way. Tamara saying, we've been taught it's dirty. And Denise is saying, yes, we've been shamed for who we are.
Yeah, that is so true. Like, literally for myself, but also for many of my clients, as I work a lot in the sensual field of coaching also, what comes often is also the memories of, like, when you are a child, you know how to run your nervous system, you know what creates you the sensation of pleasure, what gives you the sensation of calmness and centeredness, and what gives you the sensation of being fully integrated in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when a child goes into touching herself, then most of the times what I hear is parents going like, stop doing that, that is nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just disgusting, like stop that.
Yeah.
And that is where we kill a child's sexuality. That is the most like strongest sexual trauma that we actually get to experience. Then of course there is a lot more into that like traumatizing sexuality in children, like for example incest and child trafficking and so on. But most of the people have the wounding of that they have heard that this is disgusting, stop touching yourself. That makes me like really grateful of that, even though I have my own background in sexual abuse, for some reason I have still made it possible for our kids to grow up in a quite liberated home. So there is like very little shame in going without a shirt, even though your breasts are hanging out, or coming from the shower without any towel on and just like swishing by all the people that sits in the sofa. Sometimes there is not just family members, which is kind of comical because my kids can be quite in their own world, and then they just like swish by, and it's like, oh. Which I love it, and everyone who is in our house have more or less experienced that, so it's so cool. But what is like the embodiment and the orgasms, what I pinged on also is this: we have also quite narrow understanding of orgasm and the pleasure. What I have experienced in myself and in my different relationships, in my clients, that when we talk about orgasm and going into self-pleasure practice, the focus is on the orgasm, kind of creating the orgasm, coming into the orgasm, which actually can kind of re-traumatize the system, especially when you are unable to come.
Mm-hmm.
So taking off the pressure of coming and coming all the way into the experiencing a powerful orgasm, and instead of going totally empty-handed in it, like whatever ceremony or journey, just like allowing yourself to surrender into what on that journey, can give the most profound experiences of more of sense, maybe not even like an orgasm in in the vaginal area or the penis area, but in more in the energetic body, kind of these explosions, which I can many times feel almost being like more beautiful, more pure, and more expansive than the actual like literal orgasm or G-spot orgasm or cervix orgasm or whatever orgasm we want to go into. There is like so many layers to discover if we are willing to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and part of my own practice over the last several years has been to utilize the orgasm to clear my energy field. So I think that's, I don't know where I picked up that tantric practice, but somewhere in all of my researching and my own experiencing, it became a way like, when I was dating, like it became a way to kind of blast out old energy and I would actively visualize and still do, actively visualize during the orgasm, like, what am I clearing out of my space and allowing that energy to kind of, almost like the violet flame, where you light the flame and your whole field is clear. It's kind of that same thing. I don't know if that's something that you've worked with, but it can be a really powerful, like, cleansing tool to kind of own your space again,
Yeah, for sure. I also use that orgasmic space to actually do magic also. It's a really powerful way of calling in energy that you want to pull into yourself, or for example, let me see. There's kind of a whole library opening up. So like I wish you could see it, because it's kind of like
Oh, I love it. I love it. If only we could take pictures of our clairvoyant images, right?
Yeah, like printing them out.
I have to show you, we've got a little visitor, everybody. A little cauldron has decided to come and sit with us over here. Which is what I was thinking when you were talking about your library. I was like, it's like a cauldron. Your womb is like a cauldron, not like the kitty cauldron, an actual
cauldron. That's pretty much so. And also, like, if we think about like the cauldron, and when you cook something and you swirl on the soup in the cauldron, you kind of make this spiral happening in the surface of the soup. And that's actually where we go into the 0 point of the womb, into the like really the point of creation and undoing, where we can receive the black light of the womb. And that's a totally different story. But anyway, dropping in
yes, oh my
ingredients into that soup, primordial soup. So orgasm, you can actually use like even orgasm to actually pull whole like sigils or elements into any creation. Like if you are in a creative process where you need to have more energy pulled into that creation, into that entity of business project or relationships or whatever that could be. So using that orgasmic energy to pull in, maybe it's, if you are a very visual person, it could also come in as sigils, and then you just use the sigils actually to kind of seal your work. How also the feminine embodiment, if we go into more in a journey experience, you could use also it to if we come a little bit out of the container of self-pleasure and just go in more in a practice, it's not that much of a performance, it's more of an experience and letting your body to channel the energy, whatever comes there. And there, what I often feel is that in the body there is so many emotions that kind of have just been tossed to the side because there is not enough of room or time, or there is a lot of shame around certain emotions. So it just tossed them to the side, but they still are in the physical body. They are just there in the cellular memory and waiting for to be addressed. And if we don't do that, we get a lot of pressure in the emotional body, but also it starts to manifest in the physical body, in the psychosomatic system of the body. So with the channeling of energy, it could be like everything between you feeling discomfort somewhere in your body, and you just allow yourself to tap into that space of the body and starting to breathe into that space and starting to see what is kind of the energy, what is the feeling, if it has a color or a sound, or if it has some kind of movement, how it wants to express itself. And often from that it starts to evolve into something else, and the journey can go on as long as you have time. But also if you need to have support of some kind of energy, for example, a warrior, or more of an enchantress or maiden, whatever energy you need to fill your cup with, you can start to channel that energy in by the feminine embodiment, which I feel is really beautiful way of both self-regulating the nervous system, emptying out what doesn't belong, but also using it more in a way of manifesting and calling in what you need to fill your cup with. And this takes us also into the acceptance of the physical body. So there is a lot of touching in the process of feminine embodiment. And touching and sound is the most difficult things that I see in the practice of the feminine, because we tend a lot narrow down in the throat, but we at the same pelvic floor muscles, which actually de-stresses quite a lot the vagus nerve. And it's really hard to express your rawest emotions from the space where you feel yourself being strangled. So it takes time to really soften and surrender into the like really going into the total let me see the words, human words, the total surrendering, just like opening up to be raw and seen in even in the ugliest expressions of your desires or feelings. It takes a lot of courage, and even more so if you have someone who is witnessing you in that practice. And if you don't have anyone who wants to witness you in that practice, or you feel unsafe having someone to witness you in that practice, you could do it also as a mirror work, or film yourself while doing that and forcing yourself to watch it all the way through.
Which is a journey. I mean, that's a journey of inner work right there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It is just to see ourselves. I always go back to how I feel and I say awakening, but that's not even what it was, because I already was doing psychic work. It wasn't like I wasn't aware, but I wasn't aware of my physical body. And I always go back to touching my body and actually seeing myself in the mirror, how I actually was. And I'm going through a layer of that right now, where you think you're a certain way and then you look in the mirror and there's this change in your awareness. So, where you're like, oh, this is actually going on with my body. And it's deeper than just, oh, I've gained weight. It's like, oh, like I haven't even looked at the mirror. I haven't even looked at myself. That was something I'm working on right now, because the last 2 years have been so busy doing all this stuff. And even though all of this creative work and the podcast and everything, it's all great, but it was also a great distraction. And now I'm coming back into my center and looking in the mirror going, wow, I haven't even been looking at myself or paying attention to where I'm at or any of those things. And that is like the most powerful thing, just looking at yourself, touching yourself. It really is like the key to a greater awareness, I feel.
Yeah. And this is something that is really, I see it a lot, and it's quite a norm for us actually to be that much of a love avoidant to the relationship in ourselves, that we kind of get busy in all these other ways, so we don't need to show up to love ourselves fully. There can be like often, like if we think in the terms of love avoidant and love addictive, it's really not that often that we are love addicting to the self, but more love addicting to the outer world and the validation of others, where we actually start to avoiding being in touch with ourselves. We give that power away to someone else to fill up that cup.
Yeah.
While the feminine embodiment is all about being fully present, what's alive within me in this moment. And it may not be pretty, but it's still as valid as anything else.
Yeah. I can't think of a better person to hold space for me than you. And I want you to share what you have coming up, because you have a really special series coming up, and for everybody out there. And we've got some great comments. We'll get to those in a minute too. If you guys have questions for Karoliina, also, you can put them in the chat box. But I'd love for you to share what you're offering, because it's really beautiful. So
This December, we are offering, or I am offering, a short journey, 4-day journey with the feminine embodiment, which is a little bit spiced up with the Finnish mythology of a moon goddess who is called Kuuta. So we are going to go with her into a 4 days of embodiment practice, in the feminine embodiment practice. And this is kind of also, if you are, this, why I created this was actually partly because I saw this stress in people around me. I noticed it in myself, and even like in a group where I'm part of a business coaching group, and a lot of people are really uncertain of their incomes and everything at the moment, because there is so much stress because of everything that is booming up, and all the regulations. And that reminded me, like, we need to come more into the body. We need to get the tools into the people, to the people, where we can take the responsibility to actually take back our own power and learn how to run our own life energy through channeling the energy through the feminine embodiment. Because how I experience the feminine embodiment, it's a lot of empowering. It's a lot of empowerment in that practice. And it makes you to feel alive. It's like how I can experience it. It makes me to fall so deeply in love with myself, and makes me just want to make love with life. And And this is something that I need or feel that people need at this moment.
Mm.
Coming back home into the body, learning how to love all of this, and know that whatever shit is going on outside of the doors or yourself, the main thing is to learn to take care of this and be fully present in this. And the beauty of all of this is actually my husband also loves feminine embodiment work, because it's not just for a woman, and it's not just for anyone who sees themselves as a woman, but it's for everyone. Everyone needs to learn how to soften, how to take care of the emotional body, and how to regulate the nervous system. Everyone needs touch. Everyone needs loving presence, and everyone needs to know how to take the responsibility to actually elevate your energy or empty the excess energy out of your body.
And it's 4 days?
Yes, it's between 14th and 17th December.
Okay.
And it will be recorded for those who can be on the live calls. I'm well aware of the time zones. It's always fun to navigate through those. So they will be recorded, and they will be on the Nagataiga membership site in a group. It's a journey space, which you get access to when you sign in. And there will be all the recordings, where I also will go on a live call later, like a couple of days after we end. There will be a questions and answers kind of live, where we get to address any kind of possible issues or experiences that people want to share, or something that is kind of bothering, something to question. So we get to also unravel anything that may cause some headache in the practice.
And how long are the calls each day?
They are 2 hours.
Okay.
Approx.
Okay. So 2 hours a day, 4 days. I'm definitely going to I got to check my schedule, make sure it all works out, but I think it's going to, because I don't have a lot going on in December, because I took some time for myself. So I'm hoping to be able to participate. And I know we have the link in the show notes here, but do you want to tell people how they can find the information for the event?
The information should be available also through the link. There is more information also on my website. So you can go into nagataiga.com, and it's available also there. Most of the information is also in the link that you sent in the information or the description. Yeah, that's.
Well, and if you go to Nagataiga, I did it this morning, and I was like, I'm not even on your email list. So I got on your email list today. So make sure you guys also go to Karoliina's website and get on her email list as well. And I love some of these comments I want to share. So Tamara said here, as women gain their voice, they will learn that all the pleasures of the planet and this earthly experience are okay. And she also brought up too, have you ever paid attention to your mind after you finish? It's clear anxiety, anger, etc. It all falls away. And those are some great comments. And it's true. I mean, the connection with the self, I mean, you and I talk about it a lot, because I think it's safe to say that you and I easily access other dimensions. It's pretty easy for us. I mean, I don't think either of us have to work at it to like look at other dimensions or to access the Akashic records or any of those things. My challenge is accessing my body. I mean, it's like, that's the thing where it's like, man, and the deeper we all go together, it seems like, because we're all in these unique journeys, and at the same time, we're all deepening into this same idea. Like we started out with the DNA strands, it's like we're all spiraling into these the technology of the body, but it's like the body is the way in. It just is. It feels like the more that I can connect with my body, the more I'm able to experience what I came here to do. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I see the body in its wholeness. Like, well, actually, it's full of portals, but the
Mm.
body is the portal. Um, and I just had like this conversation with some of my team, and they were like also dropping in that like the embodiment or being in the body and moving the body and being present in the body, like when there is emotions, when you are moving your body, being really present in the how it feels, and the more you can surrender and soften in, and like even when you are at the gym, you don't need to tense your body up that much, but you can actually learn to generate the amount of energy where the body work goes quite easily and softly. So you don't need a lot of effort to do things. But what they said also is that when we try to constantly like access all these different realms without being in the body, the system fries sooner or later, because it's impossible to hold all that knowledge and all that information if you are not able to hold all that information that you have here.
Hmm.
You need to learn first how to access all the information in your body to be fully as a librarian in the information field in the other realms.
Yeah.
So if you already have a lot of access here, imagine what you can do when you actually have the access for your body.
Yeah.
And all of that, or a lot of that, especially in women, it lives in the pelvis and it lives in the spine. Where also the feminine embodiment comes quite handy in liquid like water.
Yeah. Oh.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's absolutely my journey right now. I mean, my personal journey. I have all these books and journals all over the place, and lots of inner work and self-inquiry I've done in a decade. And this next decade is about, this is my journal and my inner work. Like, really, that's where it's at for me now, is spending that time. And you have been a way shower for me and introduced me to a new frequency that I am so excited to dive into, that I feel like is so a part of me and I didn't even know it. And also is very scary because it's unlocking the trauma that I have left to deal with, that I have not looked at yet or wanted to see. And I'm grateful to you for that. I mean, really, you're showing me a whole other path. And what's interesting is that path is also parallel to the Ayurveda path and Shakti school, and why I chose that particular path for Ayurveda. The reason I chose feminine form Ayurveda is because it aligns with this frequency of embodiment. It aligns with this frequency of it's tantra, you know? I mean, that's it. It's tantra. And years and years ago, I probably have it sitting here in front of me. Let's see if I can scan and find it in order to show it, but maybe I don't have it right here, but it's right here somewhere. But Osho's book on tantra was the first book I read about tantra. And here I had been studying Vajrayana tantra and have initiations with the Dalai Lama. Well, that's a path, right? And when I read Osho's tantra and understood the oneness of it, but also the importance of the oneness with femininity within it. It just changed everything for me. And I feel like now you've shown me this whole other path, and I'm really excited to dive into it. Totally.
Something that pinged me actually was you saying all this unlocking, like when gliding in this frequency, and I could see like this kind of like it's kind of like opening a Pandora's box. You never know what the heck you get. By meaning also through the patriarchal way of seeing Pandora. Pandora was something that was really bad, and it was kind of the source of all sins and shit in the world, while actually Pandora is the holder of the goddess keys. So it's, yes, it can be unleashing the chaos, but in the chaos, what is born? The new universe. Everything starts from the chaos. It's the great dissolving and the new creation. So we don't get to create anything new as long as we choose to keep stuck in the old shit.
Man, that just yesterday, Resonance Science posted on Instagram this incredible thing about that exact thing, talking about black holes. Now I'm like, I'm gonna look for it really quickly, because I'm sure I can find it if I search there. It was so beautiful, and it like literally is what you just said. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it quickly, but I probably can't. Let's see. Anyway, it was talking about, yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to find it now, but it was talking about how black holes are viewed as these vacuums that like suck all this energy, when in fact it's the very darkness and the power of a black hole that produces life itself. And I love that. I remember watching too this documentary talking about black holes and how it's actually the ascension. So when a collective consciousness ascends, it becomes the black hole, and what comes out the other side is a new consciousness and a whole new system and birthing of starting over, right? It's the integration and then the separation all at once. And so what you're talking about is so profound, because that's the same. It's all the microcosm of the macrocosm, that Pandora's box that you're speaking about is for sure that.
That drops me in back to the meeting of the Hathor. When I spiraled up from that journey was actually when I floated kind of in this universe space. And it was, in a way, I was in my womb and going in from the front of my womb. But what was floating out from the sacrum of my body was all these new galaxies and these new galactic systems and parallel universes. Just like it was almost like you said, like a whole, and it just like it was just creating and just expanding. So I think that that is quite aligned also with the post that you were seeking. It was just like, heck, I just saw that yesterday in my journey.
Well, I was reading about it. I mean, yeah, that's so cool. Well, and it makes me think too, I've been so Neptune, the planet Neptune stationed yesterday. So we're in this Neptune energy, and a lot of my chart is ruled by Neptune. And I happen to have a Neptune gong. It's like literally right there. And I guess there's my, like you can see, there's my microphone, but that's, so what I've been doing, Karoliina, and it's, I just have barely talked about it because it's just so it's been my own little world. But what I've been doing is I've been hosting my own sacred cacao ceremony with the gong. So I've been opening up, and cacao, of course, I mean, it opens up all the sensuality of your energy field and this oneness. And so I've been merging with my gong and also taking in the cacao, the plant medicine, in ceremony. So this is what I've been doing. This is what the gong showed me to do. It's asking for me to, and eventually I'll host these. Don't worry, you guys. Eventually I'll host some cacao ceremonies with the gong. But anyway, the other night, I was doing that, and I was playing the gong, and I stopped playing it, and I started singing to the gong. And as I was singing to it, it was resonating back, So there was this like communication happening. And in this moment of communicating, and I'm singing, and there's this resonance, whatever it was about, I ended up opening this portal, and I saw these incredible blue, like neon sparkly blue water sprites come flying out of this dimension, this portal, through my gong. And they were like dancing around me, and they were straight from the planet Neptune. I mean, it opened up this portal to that planet, and these sprites were, just dancing around and playing and laughing. And so when you talk about your own experience, I mean, that's something I just experienced. It was so beautiful. And it comes through this connection with it's that, like you said, it's the body is the portal. And it was the resonance and the tonal frequencies that opened up this space. And so it was this like, and I could feel that like neon blue water energy like running through my body, like opening it up. And it was so good. And so it's just those moments, like you said, when you're birthing galaxies and dancing with water sprites, it's like, it's amazing.
How awesome ain't that?
It totally is.
Who needs drugs?
Yeah. And it's this practice, the tantra, the embodiment, even the cacao itself, the cacao is very sensual and feminine. And so whatever plant medicines you're choosing, whatever you're doing to activate your body, it's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I just love you so much.
I love you. So grateful to be here, and so grateful once again to have crossed our paths with each other.
I can't imagine my life without you. I mean, it's true. And my husband is obsessed with coming to Finland. Like he's like, we have to go. He's like, we have to go. And of course, with all the restrictions, we're not sure when that will be, but he wants to drive from Sweden to Finland or something. I don't know. He's got some sort of thing. So we'll have to talk offline about it. But he's like, we have to go. I mean, and it's funny because I mean, I don't know what that's all about, except that we just feel connected, and even my husband is like, we got to go. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm ready. I love it. And for everybody out there that's been listening or watching, I love you too. And do join Karoliina's 4-day journey. I think you won't be sorry. And I think that there is no better way to spend this time. I mean, December is really the dark months for us in the Northern Hemisphere, and what a great way to spend it. And I will definitely be signing up. And if you are in Ajatakasa, Karoliina is in there as well and has a group in there. So you can absolutely connect with her there on a more personal way and find her on Instagram. And just FYI, Ajata Casa is free for the month of December. So if you're not in there, go create your account. When you hit the paywall, just exit out. I'm giving everybody entrance in, and you'll be able to go in and be a part of our community for the month of December and see what it's all about. And Karoliina, I'm so happy to have you. And Karoliina's episode of Awaken Grace is up. If you guys have not heard her incredible story of healing, please watch that episode as well, because it's so profound. And that was the first day I ever talked to you, was when I did that interview. And I just can't, when I was editing it and I was watching that interview, I'm like, my God, like I was so amazed by you. And in looking back, it's like, I can't imagine not having you in my life. And it's so funny to think that we didn't know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, well, the first time already, like we had like known each other for ages.
Yes, totally.
Eons back.
And one day I'm going to be able to put my arms around you and give you a big hug in real life. And it's going to be awesome.
Oh, longing for that day.
Oh, me too. I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's been watching. Please join Karoliina in her 4-day journey. I would love to fill her spaces up. So go in there and sign up. And thank you to everybody who's been watching. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, with Sacred Council. So if you missed the December transmission, or for some reason you're not on my mailing list, we're going to go through the December transmission tomorrow. And we're going to talk a lot about the archetype of the alien. It was really, really big for the month of December, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So I love you guys. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.